Hello and welcome. This is Eagle Eye 621, and today we are back in the armor testing world because in the newest updates, that being the 1.16, although not named that yet, we have a new type of armor that requires some investigation and an answer to the question of what is the current best armor as of this snapshot. If you want to take a guess down in the comments, no cheating, now would be the time to do that. A little bit of this is going to be repetitive. If you've already seen my last video, then look down in the description for some timestamps in order to jump ahead. First thing we're going to do is talk about enchantments, then we're going to talk about the armor type, and then we're going to combine the armor type and the enchantments, and we'll do a little bit of experimenting. And if you've seen any of these videos, you know how this thing is going to end. So first, let's talk about enchantments. And I have a nice little visual set up over here. And there are three types of enchantments. You have your fire protection, you have your blast protection, and you have your projectile protection. And then, of course, you have your normal protection, which is just the protection 4. Now, the way this works, you can think of having 20 slots for your different types of armor, above which it doesn't matter anymore. So you can see that there are 20 slots right here for each of these colors, and above that is the black bar where all of your extra enchantments are useless. Now, the way that the game works, I'm going to try not to be too math heavy here, although I'll also have a link in the description so you can see that math, is that the normal protection gives you 1 for each, and the specialty protections, that's the blast, fire, and projectile, give you double whatever the number is. So for the normal protection 4, you would get 4 of these boxes covered across each of the 3, and for a blast protection 4, you would get 8, but only for that one specific color. And just to make it a little bit easier, I've simplified things and made each one of these boxes worth 4. So your protection 4 gets you 1 for each, and your specialty protections get you 2, but just for that one slot. And then in terms of protection, the best you could hope for is to max out on everything. Now, this was only possible in Java 1.14.1 and 0.2, and despite that they had marked that as working as intended, they did patch it, and the way you achieve this is by adding multiple protections to the same piece of armor. So as you can see, these boots have the protection 4 at the bottom, but if you scroll up a little bit, you can see the fire, blast, and projectile all on the same piece of armor. And the same is true for each of these 4 pieces. Again, this can't be done in survival mode if you're not in Java 1.14.1 or 2. And this is the effect. You have all 4 of the protections, so they each have a slice, and then you have all of them with their specialties, which gives you this monstrous effect. Now, you can get the maximum protection by doing less than that. For example, this piece of armor right here has the protection 4 and the fire protection 4. This one is the blast and the normal. This one is just the normal, and this one is the projectile and the normal. So what you have is all 4 of the normals stacked up right here, and then 1 of each of the specialties, and you can see that right here it goes at the black bar, which means you're still wasting, but that's okay. The reason that this god armor is particularly overpowered is because with any 2 of these pieces, you actually max out the entire enchantment protection ability. Now, when you're not playing in Java 14.1 or 0.2, you can only have 1 piece of armor with 1 enchantment. And in that case, your best option is this right here. This is protection 4 on all 4 pieces. And that doesn't get you to the maximum, but it gets you pretty close. So you can see we have a slice across for each of those pieces of armor. and you don't get the full amount, but you get pretty close. If you're thinking about doing something like splitting them, this is the effect. So if you look at the armor right here, you have the normal protection, this one has projectile, this one has fire, and this one has blast. So you have your normal here at the bottom, and then your projectile, your blast, and your fire, and you can see that that is less overall protection than just doing the 4 protections. And that's because the normal protection gives you 3 of these, whereas the specialties only give you 2 in that same vertical. Now, if you're thinking about doing a 2 and a 2, like this, so we have our normal protection, a normal protection, as well as a fire and a blast protection, that gives you just like this, and you can see you're missing these 2 right here, so you're worse off than if you just gone all 4 protection. So the way to go is all protection 4 armor. Now there is one possible exception depending on your particular world and what you're concerned about, and that's to do this. And this is 3 of them with the normal protection 4s, and then 1 of them with a specialty. And what that would do is it will maximize 1 type of damage protection, whereas it'll leave you at a slight deficit for the other 2. So as you can see in that one, these 2 are gone, and we added 1 right here. So if you have a mob switch in your world, for example, and explosions are not a concern, then you may be more concerned about dying in lava. You would want to add that 1 as fire. If you're somebody that carries around a fire protection potion with you at all times, then you may want to add that 1 protection here to blast to make surviving a creeper explosion much more survivable by doing it that way. So those are your really 2 choices. Either go all protection 4, or you can have 3 of them with the protection 4 and 1 of them as a specialty. And down here all the way at the other end, you can see that there are some mitigators that you can use here. Things like your Totem of Undying, your shield, or your fire resistance, and this will protect you obviously from the fire. This is most useful against projectiles, but if you can see the creeper, it will also protect you against the explosions. And this, of course, if you get snuck up on by a creeper or accidentally fall to your death of some sort. And this is the question about if you're wearing wings, what is the best armor combination because you don't have access to a chest plate? And the answer comes out to be the same. You want to have the protection 4 on all of your actual armor, which gives you 3 bars across all of them, versus trying to do 1 of each, which would only give you the equivalent of 2 across all of them. But again, you can do 1 specialty protection, and in this case I did the blast protection, so you can see we have a normal protection, and then blast protection. And that gives you 2 across like this, and 1 specialty. And this will make most creeper explosions survivable, and it does give you enough time to hit your potion if you're fast on the keyboard. I would recommend this mostly, although this is a very strong contender if you don't have a mob switch. This will stop most creeper explosions from killing you. It's a little bit of a preference issue between whether you want to do it this way or this way, and this is if you're wearing elytra. Now on to the specific materials, and we have a new material to deal with, and this is our types of armor. Now we have our normal leather, as well as gold and chainmail and iron, and of course this is all old news, as well as the diamond and a little stop in between for your turtle shells. And these are laid out roughly in order of strength and effectiveness. You can see as I scroll past the armor effect. Diamond then also has something called toughness, which I'll get to in a moment, and that the turtle shell doesn't have. And when you're putting the armor on, it will fill a different number of the bars when you are in survival. So if I put on leather, you will see down here that only 3.5 are filled up. And if I take this off and I put these back and I put on iron, you will see that it's almost all the way filled up. Now diamond will fill them all the way up, as will our new material, and that is called netherite. Now in terms of which is better between the diamond and the netherite, you can see that they have the same amount of armor for all of them, but the netherite has one extra feature and then one extra in the toughness category. So you can see all of these have knockback resistance, which is fairly self-explanatory. And then instead of having the 2 armor toughness, they have 3 armor toughness. Now, they also do have some extra abilities that are also important, although not as important in terms of your protection. These will not burn in lava, which is very nice. And they also don't take damage in lava, at least as of the current snapshot, which is also very useful. Now, the netherite having that extra toughness is going to be better. And again, I want to stay away from the complicated math, but I will link the formula down below. What you need to know is that the extra toughness does extra damage reduction. And the way the formula works, the more damage you're done in one shot, the more reduction the toughness helps. So if you take just a tiny bit of damage, then the extra toughness only helps a little bit. If you take a lot of damage, the extra toughness helps a lot, although there is a maximum. And if you do the math, the peak of the effectiveness is at 64 damage, and if you hit 80 damage, then the extra toughness actually stops helping. So it goes up into 64, and then at 80, the extra toughness doesn't have any effect. Now, in practice, the only way you're going to find that is with a charged creeper explosion or an end crystal explosion. And in that case, the toughness doesn't help you any extra on the netherite than it does on the diamond. But in almost all of your real game scenarios, that extra toughness is going to be important. So if you guessed that your netherite is going to be your best armor, you're not exactly correct. Now, sure, netherite is better than diamond just as the material, but we did just talk about all of these enchantments. And that's going to mix things up a little bit. And we have our armor enchantments categorized in here. Now you can see all the way on the left, we have our normal diamond armor. To get a little bit better than that, we have our netherite armor. But better than the straight normal netherite would be your enchanted diamond. And of course, better than your enchanted diamond would be your enchanted netherite. But as you may have noticed, there is more armor to the side, and this is your God armor, or your OP armor. Now, this has the same effect with just the one extra type of protection as maxing it out and going absolutely crazy like this. But the extra protection that you get from being able to combine multiple protections onto each armor is better than the extra toughness that you get from your netherite. So if you still have your God armor lying around, then this is still the best armor. Now there are, of course, some caveats to that. This armor will burn in lava and doesn't offer you any knockback protection, but to the extent that the knockback protection doesn't really matter to you and your only question is about strictly damage reduction, then your OP armor is going to be better. And at least in the current snapshot, it's not possible to get your netherite armor as your god armor. And that's because of how you make the netherite armor. And the way you make it is with these netherite ingots. So let me go back into survival mode. And you take your boots and you can combine them to get netherite armor. Just like that. Now the problem is, at least as of the current snapshot, when you take enchanted diamond armor and you combine them to make netherite armor, you can see that it erases the enchantments. So you can't upgrade your OP or god armor to be OP netherite armor because it just gets erased. So if they change that, then the OP netherite will reign supreme. But for now, the OP god armor is better. However, that's not the end of the story. Now, I will show you that the armor is better by doing a couple of experiments right here. And I will grab a clone of our netherite armor first. And this is our normal protection 4 on everything. And I will also grab some TNT, some flint and steel, a couple of carrots, and then some splash potions to make this go a little faster. And switch over into survival mode. That's not survival mode. That's survival mode. And let's make sure we put the armor on before we do any experimenting. Let's drop some TNT, and let's blow ourselves up. You can see that we have 4 to 4.5 hearts left. And I've done this a couple of times off camera, and that is pretty consistent. Now let's take our diamond armor. And this is again our normal protection 4 on everything. And let's swap out the netherite for the diamond and go back to survival mode. Drop some more TNT. And you can see we're at 3 hearts. So the netherite does do more protection. And in fact, we can even see how long it'll take to kill ourselves in lava. And you'll see that in real time, it is longer. I'm not going to eat anything to make it go a little bit faster, but to make sure it's fair, let's just top that off and jump in. And you can see the diamond armor is taking damage, of course, as we sort of slowly burn to death in lava. And you can see on the video in real time exactly how long it takes, but that's about 20 seconds or so. Let's respawn and let's go get our netherite armor. And as I said, the netherite armor doesn't burn, which is very useful if you're going to be in the nether or around lava. Let's put that on. And you can see it's taken some damage from the explosion. But as we switch back into survival mode, and again do this real time, you will see that the armor is not taking any fire damage. It's also worth noting that this armor is more resistant than the diamond armor in terms of how much damage it can take. And there you go. And it is pretty close right there, but I've done this test a couple of times, and the netherite does do just a little bit better, all things considered. So if your final guess, let's collect all this. Say I get rid of it by throwing it in the lava, but of course that doesn't work. If your final guess in terms of what the best armor is was the God Armor, then not quite either. And you can see we still have some floating in there and not dying. The best armor that you can put together is not the God Armor. It would be a combination. If you take one of your God Armor pieces that has all of the extra protections on it, and you combine that with your Netherite armor that has the protection 4. So to be clear, it's protection 4 on all of your Netherite, and then one piece of God armor. You will get all the benefits of the extra toughness from 3 out of the 4 possible Netherite. You will also get the knockback resistance from 3 of them as well, but you get the maximum possible enchantment protection because of your use of God Armor. So depending on your style and just my preference, I like this Netherite helmet better than I like the diamond helmet. I also like these boots better, and I also like the chestplate better. The leggings are kinda the same, so if you're aesthetically, you may pick which one you want, but you're going to want to do one of these sets for your best possible armor. Now, if you're going to wear wings, it looks very similar. You're stuck with your one set of wings, but you are going to want to have one piece of God Armor, as well as the 2 pieces of normal protection. And what that does is that maximizes these bars, because the 3 protections give you these 3 rows right here, and the extra protection from each of the specialties, because that armor has all 3 of these, will stack up on top like this and cover your entire enchantment side. So this is not going to be quite as effective as the chest plate, just because of that extra toughness as well as the extra armor bars you get. But this is the best combinations if you're going to wear wings, and this, like this, and the absolute best armor you can wear is going to be one piece of God Armor, and then 3 of the Netherite armors with protection 4. Now this is subject to change if in the final release you can upgrade your God Armor to be your Netherite God Armor, but for now you are stuck with one piece of diamond. And of course, because I said I like the legs like this, there is only one way to end any episode that involves armor, and that is by paying a visit to this aptly named fellow, and completely survivable with the God Armor, or now the Netherite added God Armor. And I should have gotten a little closer, and I've hugged him in the last videos you see, which I'll also put some links to at the bottom. If you found this video helpful, I would appreciate a like. If you think it was interesting, you might consider sharing it with one of your friends. And for more videos like this, do be sure to subscribe. Thanks for stopping by.